the people that like go on the internet to leave like a 1 to 5 star review of anything.
I wrote one about my former eye doctor this morning.
Oh, hey, former, I see. Wait, let me guess, not a 5-star review.
Glowingly poor review.
It is like a greatly democratic way to make your voice known, even if the people owning those sites are not the greatest for democracy.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Right. It's like they've outsourced the democracy and then stamped it out at every opportunity.
They've given us the illusion of democracy in order to fund their destruction of democracy.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, hi, I'm Joe Beal, the founder and CEO of Microcosm Publishing. I'm also the author of A People's Guide to Publishing, which distills what I've learned from selling millions of books over the past 28 years.
I'm Ellie Blue, the vice president of Microcosm. We started this podcast to share what we've learned with newer publishers, so you can learn from our mistakes. Or maybe you just want to learn about the publishing industry.
This week, we are going to tackle yet another episode of the Pacific Northwest Booksellers Association Fall Regional Show with the question on everyone's mind. Do reviews matter?
One of the things I loved about this episode is how different people interpreted reviews to mean different things.
Yeah, that's true. All kinds of things you can review, all kinds of ways you can review.
So many platforms.
All kinds of quote-unquote experts that could be reviewing you.
Yeah.
Would you like to review the reviewers?
I'd say, funny enough, I think the reviews matter more when I'm reading a book versus than when I'm ordering books. Like for me, I know that my tastes in romance novels, I read a lot of like contemporary romance, but I'm like going into other genres, and I think that romance is one of those genres where it's so particular to the person because you bring in so much of your past. And so like for me, there could be a romance novel that I absolutely love, and then I'll read the 1-star reviews on Goodreads, and people will just be like, that book was so garbage, I hate this author, whatever. But I'm like, oh, I loved it. And I will sell it because I love it.
How much do reviews matter to how you sell books?
They don't change our marketing plans or how we publicize the titles, but it is really helpful to hang our hat on at least one trade review. The author feels good. Readers and booksellers and other people in the industry see those reviews or the one review and get excited about the book, and it helps us. It helps everybody feel good, I guess.
I did notice increase in sales after we had reviews like in the media. In particular, we had a piece in the Seattle Times where I immediately was getting online sales. I had a couple bookstores reach out who wanted to carry it that I hadn't contacted before. I had one who had a customer who read it and asked if they would order it so she could buy it there.
Reviews matter a ton, but gosh, and we have a great people working on publicity, and we have the list of like, here's the most important reviews, right? It's like, and there's only 4.
Have really made the difference in the library market because of a really strong Kirkus or school library. Journal review has made a huge difference for us, especially in the children's space.
Among the best books I've ever read in my life, submit them all properly to Kirkus and write, do beautiful presentations, and then just go to press without having any reviews.
So I think like reviews go such a long way, but like for me personally, I don't have the background or like capacity to do the level of marketing and PR that I feel like we need.
Sales numbers support the benefits of reviews.
I don't see a deep correlation between sales numbers and a great review. What I do see is being able to use snippets of that review throughout to make the book more visible to people who might buy it, and it's great for pitching and repitching. One of the things I've done this year is we always make one-sheets for our titles that include early praise and blurbs and the information for ordering and for trade reviewers to use. But I've been making additional PDFs of news coverage because we've gotten so many good blurbs, reviews, coverage, our authors on podcasts.
I think reviews really matter, and we've always known that, but giving that top-tier review from an author is a difficult thing. We're very strong on trying to get reviews from the trades. But yeah, you can carry all that I think that carries all the way to the bank if you've got good reviews, because everybody wants to see that someone else loves it.
There's so many different advertising functions, right? And half of them are geared towards readers. And then everyone knows that Amazon is a juggernaut, and Amazon has incredible advertising functions, like you can register your brand and make your page really beautiful. You can spend hundreds of dollars on Amazon, but in terms of the return, like getting new readers doesn't matter, right? Because you will spend $100 on Amazon ads, you'll end up with 2 new readers. And so the place that I realized, and the reason I came to this conference at the last minute is I was like, what matters is booksellers, because booksellers will like one of your books, they'll keep it in stock, and then they'll be like, this book was amazing, let's look at the whole catalog.
Like, what's the thing that you do the most that sells the most books?
I would say being really personal in our approach. Originally, that was events-based. We would get our authors to go out at lots of events. Since COVID and an increasing awareness on my part of disability and chronic pain, I have focused less on the in-person, but I would say that the approach is still really personal. When we pitch, it is to a human being. When we pitch, it is specific to the book. When we reach readers on our social media, it's very much with an old-fashioned connection sensibility. We're not creating graphics that look like everybody else's graphics. We're not.
So I have a New York Times best-selling children's picture book, The Fly Who Flew to Space, and that was really amazing. It was actually organic, complete organic sales. Our pre-order campaign was not really strong and everyone was getting really nervous, but she got booked on The View, ABC Nightline, Good Morning America, and it was unreal. It was all organic, and I really had a hard time getting book reviews. So I can tell you that an author can drive, if they get the national media and are talking about something. Her proceeds were going back to dyslexia, which the author has dyslexia. So I think that her personal story about dyslexia just moved across the country so many people.
With both of our recent cookbooks, especially our newest cookbook, The Revolution Will Be Well Fed, our author has a really large Instagram platform. She actually reviews diverse children's books, and so she's got I think over 50,000 followers. So for us, that was huge because we don't even have that kind of platform. And so having an author who does, that's a great reach for us. But I find that on my end, just contacting local bookstores,
kind of a perennial issue for small publishers is being able to reach readers when they don't have the resources of a larger press. So how do you fully invest in marketing, in outreach, if you don't have a full-time staff member, or if you don't have the ability to send someone to every show around the country?
I feel like we now already have pretty great relationships with some really solid Northwest booksellers where I've connected with them for Genuine Skagit Cooking, and now I have that relationship for our newest book.
And the way that you sell Kindle is you drop the Kindle price to $1.50, and then you put $1,000 on Amazon reviews, and you'll sell 1,000 Kindles, and you will come in just short of your initial investment.
Traditional distribution with Simon & Schuster. So that really takes a huge barrier off of how my books can get to bookstores or libraries, how it gets to online retailers or mass market retailers, in indies as well as large specialty shops. My books are at Nordstrom's and Anthropology and Urban Outfitters as much as they are at a Barnes & Noble or a Strand or Powell's bookstore.
Having a book in a shop, taking a bookseller out to coffee, and having them take all the books in your catalog and your backlist and have them want to take every book you make in the future is going to be way more financially sound, especially when you could do a mailing for $200 to bookstores.
So we're constantly trying to think of ways to get those titles more visibility, do more outreach ourselves to help them out, and help publishers navigate that whole marketing distribution system.
We are in some bookstores across the country, and I think it helps that our author, Corey Lockharty, is from Massachusetts, but we're not like nationwide. It's like we've got like someone in Georgia, someone in Utah, a couple in Massachusetts, someone in Brooklyn, and that's all been really exciting, but I feel like there's only so much like I can do as one person.
I'll see if like the author is interesting, or they have some kind of connection with their local, or maybe they're a smaller author, maybe it's their debut and they're trying, those kind of things. I weigh that a lot more than anything else.
Do not advertise on Amazon. Like, honestly, it's a behemoth. Amazon has a special revenue deal where they take more than a normal bookstore. They take 65%. So
Yeah, that was super interesting. I mean, we're constantly assessing how reviews work for us, which is like kind of funny because we have less and less control over whether we get reviews, and we're not like active participants on platforms that collect regular person reviews. So do reviews work for us? Not really, but like influential mentions do.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say is like it all goes back to developing the book well. If you develop the book well, then even if all the reviews ignore you, in hindsight, your like organic buzz will follow. For example, Unfuck Your Brain, which was ignored by every trade publication, every person that could possibly review it in publishing, then it ends up on all the like top 10 lists for like best self-help book 7 years later,
Yeah, I mean, if you develop the book right, also like a bad review will sell it just as well as a good review because people will see it and they'll be like, oh, I want that. And obviously they don't care what somebody else thinks.
Right. And at the end of the day, those initial reviews probably would have helped to sell it in to bolster initial numbers, but like we didn't really need help with that at the end of the day.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Please send your questions to podcast@microcosmpublishing.com so we can answer them on future episodes.
And please give us 5 stars on iTunes and everywhere else that podcasts are reviewed.
You can find us on the internet at microcosm.pub,
On Twitter at microcosm,
on Facebook at Microcosm Publishing,
on Instagram at microcosm_pub.
and here in Portland, Oregon on North Williams Avenue.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful week.
And if you're scared of Amazon, you feel awkward, throwing money into that hole, like that's really what Amazon is.